Accusations are easy to make. Allegations are easy to wage. And this indictment has plenty of both. But here's the thing. There's a big difference between making allegations and proving them in court beyond a reasonable doubt to the citizens of Fulton County.
Okay. All right, ladies and gentlemen. I don't know if you guys heard that intro. It was a nice intro. I don't know if you guys heard the intro, but first of all, I've known this man for, I think, almost 10 years now. It seems like almost 10 years. I think it's been 10 years. Max,
at least that
10 years. This is an important interview for me for a number of reasons. One, in my entire career, I have never witnessed such a skillful attorney hold it down for, I want to say this trial was almost, it seems like almost 2 years with the pre-trial, the prelims and everything. And to see you in action for such a long period of time, even though I'm sure you have so many stories to tell that what you were going through throughout this trial that people don't see behind the scenes. When I met you, I think your son was just born around the time. How's your son now?
Son is 9 years old. So that's about right. That's about right.
Yeah. So I feel old now. I'm telling myself, but
man, time flies, man. Time flies.
Time flies, man. And you are in the top echelons of the profession, sir. You literally, no one knows when that they have that it moment, but you are at the top echelon of your profession. And I must say, you went against some of the top prosecutors in the state of Georgia. Well, let's leave it at that. I'm not throwing no shade. And you also had to deal with, and we're going to talk about this. And some things I saw that I didn't like in the very beginning of the trial. It almost, if this is my opinion, it was almost appeared that you were being picked on in particular. It felt like that in certain instances. And I don't know if you felt that or people text you and told you this, but is that, am I a little bit accurate with that? You felt like you may have been picked on more strongly than others in that courtroom for a minute? We'll get to Brian in a second.
Can I say something else first?
Yes.
Because just in case anyone saw the intro, people a lot of times say, Max, why? Max, he might have good thoughts, but he's not articulate as he could be. When I'm stumbling on my words in that closing argument right there, when I was just getting started, I'm trying to hold in so many. That took me back to that moment. So many butterflies, so much anxiety. I just got anxious looking at my beginning of that closing, just going back to that day. It was just so much going on. So that was crazy just to see. That was the first time I've seen it. I haven't watched the closing, but just seeing my face and just taking myself back to that mental space that I was in, I guess on, when was that? A couple weeks ago, I guess it is now, or a week and a half ago. It's just crazy. It's just crazy.
And what I didn't show.
Go ahead.
What I didn't show people was the pacing from, before the jurors actually came to the courtroom. I said, look, Max is like a bull ready to open up, ready to charge.
Well, the late, great Judge Marvin Arrington, who I used to be in his courtroom as a public defender. That was before we met. He used to yell at me. He called me schoolboy, and as a term of endearment. Everyone was taken aback by that. Why are you calling this attorney schoolboy? But that's just what he called me. And he said, I'm going to need to nail you to the ground or you're going to wear out the carpet in this courtroom. Because every time I'd be arguing, I'd be running around in a circle. And so that was what Judge Arrington always told me, but I can't help it. I have a lot of nervous energy. That's just me.
I think his son is a commissioner now, correct?
Correct. Yeah,
Right.
that's Junior.
Junior, yes, yes. So 10 years, 9 years, I'll say 10, because, you know, even
it is about 10 because my son's about to turn 10.
Yeah, yeah. So, wow. So going back, before we talk about the trial, talk about what you had to do to prepare for this trial, knowing that you were going to be a part of, and I don't know if you knew at the time the indictment came down that you would be a part of the longest trial in Georgia history. What did you have to do to prepare for this?
So I think some people might have an idea about this now. My office is in the same hallway. It's 15 feet away from Brian Steele. So I got the call about Shannon, about the March 2022 murder case. And that's when I met Shannon. That was before this RICO indictment. But then the RICO indictment came down and it just became so much more than one murder case. But, you know, I know everyone gives Brian his flowers. But, you know, the one thing about Brian and being 15 feet from Brian ain't, he's not going to let you rest. And even, and he doesn't pressure you to go above and beyond, but you always, you know, we have a mutual respect, and I'm not going to let him carry my weight, and he's not going to let me carry his weight, and we're going to carry it together. So it's easier to put in that work when you see someone else put in that work too. And so that was very helpful. And of course, he had certain connections to people that allowed me to get better prepared for the case as well. So that's really how it started, is Brian and myself. And then Brian had interns and you know, Trish Renard and other people working with him. And then Keith got on eventually. But, you know, it just started out myself and Brian and people within the office, and we were just hitting it hard every day, hitting it hard. And that's why, you know, and then we started getting into discovery, and it was like, you know, it's crazy, but it was like you wake up early on Christmas and you're looking under the tree. We got the discovery. Let's see it. And we're just devouring it, you know, just going through it so quick. And then there's a wiretap. Oh, we got to listen to every call on the wiretap. So we were just hitting it hard. And that's how we got to the point that, you know, no one was going to know the case better than us. And I feel that's the truth.
And to your point, there was talks about terabytes of discovery.
Right.
I can't even imagine having to go through that much information and to retain it and to be able to. And I noticed your style. You were so spot on with pointing out things throughout the trial, and you corrected information. It was like you were like a walking computer, but you did have a sort of like a walking computer beside you as well. And we're going to talk about him.
Yeah. Well, one thing that I did early on is, this was so, like, I've heard some of the jurors talking about this, like, you don't understand the entire blueprint of the whole case and the confusion with that. One thing I did, and, you know, I kind of framed it as, I'm doing it for everyone, but I really half did it for myself as well, is I went through every count and every overact, and I charted where the evidence, because the discovery was kind of all over the place, and I put it together in, like, I made like 120 page document that would link each overact, where it is, what it says, who the witnesses are, and then I emailed it to all. It was actually too big to email. We had to get flash drives, and I gave it to all the other attorneys. But through that process of going through that exercise of doing it myself and watching everything, that's just the way my mind works. If I see it visually, I'm going to retain it. So that's what really helped me understand kind of how everything was allegedly going to fit together and how it really didn't fit together.
To your point, the prosecution had a team. They had a team of investigators. They had a team of prosecutors. They had, arguably unlimited resources to fight for the state. Let's talk about your team and how you assembled your team, because we met Mr. Kokomo, but I know that you need investigators on your side as well. Can you explain how did you put the team together?
So I really didn't put the team together, and I'm going to try to name everyone. And if I fail to name someone, I apologize. We'll get to Mr. Kokomo. I've known Shaq since he was 16 or 17. And our relationship is special, and I brought in Shaq. But when I started working on this case, there's Bram Mansback, an undergrad, going to go to law school. We got Haley Halterwanger. These are all people that sat next to Brian at some point, and people were like, "Oh, that must be Brian's daughter. That must be Brian's son," and they weren't. But she's in law school. We got Trisha Renard, who was the jury consultant, and she knew everything about the discovery, and she helped us pick a great jury. You got Griffin Lale, who's now in law school, and all these, and there's others, Jack Pines, and all these young people are reviewing discovery, and they're doing the boring stuff. One thing that came out of like 2019, 2020 is these body cameras that all police officers are wearing. And of course, that's a good thing. But it is a pain in the neck as a defense attorney, because in this case, you get hundreds of hours of body camera footage. And it could just be officers sitting there talking about their daughter's softball game that weekend. But you got to look at all of it to make sure you're not missing something. And that's the stuff that the people behind the scenes did. And listen to all those wiretap calls. That's what they did. And they were so spot on and gave us such great information that, it really made our lives easier. And those are all young people that work with Brian that did a lot of that work. And then I brought in Shaq. And Shaq started working with myself and Brian. And of course, we know what Shaq did. So
talk about, and you touched on something just now, as you were speaking about the mounting of evidence you had to go through. Do you think there was stuff that was sent to the defense team that the prosecution knew they weren't going to use, but just to kind of bog you guys down to kind of have you guys not really be prepared?
No. Honestly, no, I don't think that. I think probably they were going to, because, if something is important, or if we think it's important, we're going to start hooting and hollering about it. So get it. All of it was not probably completely relevant, but at the same time, I'd rather they err on the side of inclusion than to leave stuff out. So, and there were times when we felt that stuff was left out of discovery, and we had arguments about that. But I don't think that it was just a big case. With a lot of stuff going on, I don't think that they put in irrelevant stuff just to bog us down. Now, if I'm being honest, the way it was organized wasn't the best. And so that took some work to try to put everything in an order that made sense to me, but I don't think that they added stuff I'm certain that didn't happen.
Okay, so organization is an important statement here. Word. Judge Whitaker essentially brought that to the forefront when she dressed down the prosecution team. Not being prepared. So do you think the reason why this trial lasted so long is because it wasn't organized properly? Because you've been in tons of trials. Were you surprised at the level of unpreparedness the prosecution had in this case?
Well, I didn't say they weren't prepared. Let me
Well,
that was your words. Yeah.
That's my word.
So let me just say this. It was a huge case to try on both ends.
Okay.
I think so. Take my closing argument, for example. I spoke for 3 hours, right? Or close to 3 hours. When I was done, after Simone's closing argument, she made an allusion that there was drips coming down the side of the window, and that was indicating that the car was clean. I knew that wasn't it. That was drips from window tint treatment that they spray on for, and I never said that in closing. And I say, why didn't I say that in closing? And then there was other things I didn't say in closing, and I was like, but you always have to kind of balance. There's always going to be things you leave out, but at the same time, you can't talk for 5 days straight to cover everything. So you have to pick and choose what you think will resonate. So I think, getting back to your question, the state initially didn't want to leave anything out. So we spent 2 weeks on Adrian Bean and the car flying in from 2013, and he didn't remember 2013 as a year in general, and about the car flying into the laundromat. And we spent days on Durante Beebe selling drugs, $10 sales of drugs. And ultimately, I think the state realized at some point that they were spending too much time on stuff that no one really was going to sink their teeth into. And then they moved on to kind of culling it down a little bit and focusing on the more quote unquote important stuff.
Ladies and gentlemen, we are joined in with attorney Aikisha L. Shabazz. She's a former prosecutor in New York and a criminal defense attorney. And Max, welcome. I want to introduce
you. Counselor.
Counselor. Hello, counselor. How are you? Congratulations. God damn it.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
Yes.
Where in New York are you?
I'm in the city. My office is in Long Island, but I practice all over the city. I'm a former Manhattan prosecutor. I teach at St. John's Law School. I teach evidence.
Oh, awesome.
So It was good. I've used some of the clips from the trial in my class. 403. 403. Awesome. Right. So I heard I heard some of the interview earlier. So are you still trying the case? Right. So for those of you who don't know, typically when you try a case, you try that case before the trial, you try it during the trial, and then I heard you say after the trial, you're still trying it, right? Are you still?
No, I was more stressed, like in the waiting time.
Right, okay.
At this point, I've got to. There's a couple matters I've got to clear up and take care of for Mr. Stillwell before my work is completely done. Okay. But I've had discussions with the prosecutors, and I'm optimistic that that's going to work itself out. It should work itself out, hopefully next week. But yeah, I honestly, I've put the trial it's in my rear view mirror at this point.
Okay.
I'm not worried about the trial anymore.
Okay. That's awesome. Cause I know even the trials I win, I'm still going, that summation, I'm still summing up the next day. If
it came out differently, I'd still be thinking about it, but
yeah. Okay.
So he revealed just a minute ago that he didn't have the chance. You didn't watch the whole closing yet. You didn't watch.
I didn't watch any of it. That was the what you just showed me was the first I watched, and it just took me back to extreme anxiety.
Right? Do you think you will watch it, or is that just going to zhuzh up again and put you back in that space? It's difficult.
Maybe I'll watch it in a few years if it's still on YouTube or whatever. But
right.
Maybe I'll watch it with my son.
Right?
Show him.
Yeah.
But he has a limited understanding of what I do, and I try to hide and shield him from some of it.
Right.
But he would ask. He asked about Mr. Shannon, How is Mr. Shannon? He asked about Mr. Jeffrey.
Wow. Wow.
And then I, tell him some of the other people, and he asks questions, but he doesn't have a full understanding. But one day we'll probably watch it together.
Right, right. So can you tell us about your relationship with Shannon and how it either changed or developed over the course of time? When you spend that much time with someone in such close proximity. I saw that hug at the end. That hug, it was palpable.
Well, thank you. It was genuine, but Dennis probably knows this. I've always focused my practice. When I was with the public defender's office, I represented what we call SB 440s, which are juveniles charged as adult, murder, rape, armed robbery. So most of my clients throughout my career have been 13 to 17-year-olds, 13 to 16-year-olds.
Wow.
Okay. Or at least in the recent years. Charged with facing life in prison, basically.
Right. Right.
So a big part, I think that what may make me a little different than some attorneys is, I really talk about life a lot.
Yeah.
Talk about that sort of thing. Because a lot of times when you're representing young people, I'm able to get them through the legal process, but then where they're going to be at when they're, they get their probation, or if I get the case dismissed or whatever.
Right. Right.
In this case, it's funny because Shannon's been just, he's had a tough life, and he had tough circumstances, and we talked about it a little bit at trial. And I've been meaning to have, and we got all these young guys, relatively young guys, with all these older attorneys, beautiful people, the Matthews father-son duo.
Right.
Mr. Huey gets to hang out with the Matthews every day for a year, 2 years.
Right.
Brian, Keith, all these attorneys. You saw how much Bruce Harvey cared for Mr. Nichols.
Yes.
And so, we would have talks about life, but it was always my discussions with Shannon were always with that cloud hanging over our heads of, is there going to be life?
Yeah.
At the end of this. Now we're to a point, and I visited him yesterday, and our relationship completely changed. There are legal things we need to get through, but our relationship completely changed the day of the verdict because that cloud was lifted, and now we get to talk about life. Right. And we're working on a plan for life because we didn't accomplish anything if Shannon feels the need to carry a firearm to protect himself because people are trying to kill him in Atlanta, and then he gets locked up again. We didn't accomplish anything. So
right.
So we're having those discussions now about how to move forward and be productive and be a great father and a great husband and great grandson and all that stuff. So it's different now, but it's what I enjoy as well.
Yeah. Yeah.
I was thinking, like, at that moment, and you bring up a good point. At that moment, and I'm sure this was something you guys probably discussed, with the understanding or the hope that this case was going to be in his favor. Did he talk about, for example, like you have Mr. Kokomo, who's your mentee? Did he talk about wanting to get into law or something up? What are some of his aspirations now? Because obviously, what got him to that point, he has to have a different game plan.
I don't know if you can answer that.
Well, I think he wants. I think he wants, and I find this admirable. He wants people to learn from the situation that he was in. Sitting, getting woken up at 4 a.m., 3 a.m. He's got all sorts of injuries from that car accident that took Tiara Jones's life. So, then you're sitting on concrete in the holding cell for hours waiting us to start. It's just a grind. And people used to always be giving me a hard time. Max, wake up Shannon. And I would elbow him, and he'd make the meanest face at me, like, "What you doing?"
No, I got a few of those.
Yeah, and they were talking about, you know, some other stuff, but it's like, yeah, he's tired. I get it. But you know, we're just excited to move forward now. But he wants people to learn from this experience, and he wants to page as well. He still wants to do music, but I also, you know, we've had discussions about that too. Like, you know, what I told him is, man, you've been through an experience that really no one's been through.
Right.
You and Yak, you know, took on the state in the longest trial in Georgia history.
That's right.
And y'all came through it. So instead of making up stories about ops and guns and all that, tell your truth.
Yeah.
That's what we sell.
Yeah,
so,
that would sell.
So we've talked about that. He still wants to do music, but I'm hoping that we turn the page on, you know, it's his life, but you know, he's got other stuff to rap about,
right,
that I think people are interested in, and he's got a story, and I hope he's able to share that story. But so he wants to continue his rap career, but he also knows he needs to get a 9 to 5 and be a productive member of society, and he's got kids to provide for. So I'm hoping that we go in that direction, and I'm optimistic we will.
I'm curious, and I'm sure a lot of people are. I know the answer, but what is it like when, in those moments when everyone else is taking pleas and your client is contemplating taking a plea, and there's a very real chance that he could be convicted if he doesn't take this plea? What is that like? Because at the end of the day, Max, we know we're going home, right?
They made it. I don't know what your perspective on this is. The toughest thing of this job for me, the toughest part of this job for me, especially when we're talking about serious cases,
right,
is advising your client whether to take a plea or not. Because, you know, I'm somewhat risk averse. So I like a bird in hand.
Right.
The state honestly did us a favor in this case. They didn't make, we were really the only party that was not given an offer that could even be considered.
Okay.
Right.
Like, they didn't give us any options. I'm not going to lie, they made an offer, but it wasn't an offer.
We heard the offer.
I don't remember what the offer was. I don't.
30 years, I believe, right?
Oh,
Max?
okay. Yeah, that's not an offer.
That's not even
an offer. That's a recommendation.
I'm not
on
going to say what it was.
Hold on.
I'm not going to say what it was, but you're selling it short.
What?
Oh, wow. See, look at that, Dennis.
So
wow.
So we didn't have an option. Okay. So, you know, I said, ethically, I got to give you this offer. But, you know, I just was like, we fighting.
Yeah.
That's it. You made it easy for us.
Okay.
You didn't give us anything that we need to think about. We fight.
Let me ask you this question. Okay. When Shannon knew Doug was going to take a plea, how do you feel about that? If you can talk about it.
I can't answer that for Shannon, you know, but I'll say this. The feeling in the room, and then not just for Jeffrey, for everyone. It was people were happy that people were going home or getting a resolution that they felt they wanted. People were happy for Mr. Huey getting the plea deal that he got. People were happy for Mr. Nichols. Mr. Nichols is like, you want to talk about someone that was universally loved by everyone. Mr. Nichols was universally loved by everyone. So Mr. Nichols, we were happy for him. When Jeffrey, you know, that was a little tense because it was non-negotiated with Jeffrey, but people were happy when Jeffrey's plea went through. You know, so everyone was happy. What I didn't realize at the time, and I should have, is those pleas, they weren't just getting rid of clients and quote unquote defendants, but they were getting rid of defense attorneys as well.
Right.
So all of a sudden I show up and I look to my left and I'm like, where's Brian?
Right.
You know, where's Mr. Matthews? Where's Keith? You know, where's my buddy, Miss Westmoreland? Who am I who am I in here with? And I look and I see Doug and I say, I guess it's us, buddy.
Well, hold on, Max. Right. Max. Not only that, they moved you to the front of the room, not in the back anymore.
No, I liked being in the front though, because we were closer to the jurors.
Okay. And you can see what was going on.
Right.
And I want to share something, Max. I tweeted this out, Max. During the trial, I brought something to your attention regarding prosecution. One of the prosecutors doing nonverbal communication. I said, "Did you see that?" Early, I don't know if you recall that early on in the trial.
I do.
Right, and when you told the judge, and the judge had to let the prosecutor know.
I told the judge. No, it wasn't me that told the judge.
No, someone else did. Someone else did.
Mr. Adams, I think did. Right. Because my thing, honestly, on that is, and I appreciate you bringing to my attention. If someone wants to do silly stuff, I let them do it. I say, okay, that's not going to play well with the jury anyway. So I'm not. Right. I don't usually worry myself with the silliness. But I think Keith brought it to the judge's attention. But I heard the jurors talking about that in their interview. I watched their interview or parts of their interview. Yeah. And so, yeah.
So I had a quick question about the jury selection. I heard you say you used the jury consultant. Had you done that in the past? Because I know this is a super big case. Was that something you've done in the past? Used a consultant? Was the first time? Was this the first time?
No, I've never used one.
How was that?
I was involved in my through my relationship with Brian. There was a lot of things that were kind of first for me in this case.
Okay.
It was great because it kept everything organized. Now we divided labor, and so the attorneys played an active role. So it wasn't just Miss Renard doing the work, but she kept it all together. And so, you say, and we were bombarding her. Like she must have been frustrated because we were like, Trisha, what about 283? And someone else is saying, what about 412? And she's like, yo. So, but she was the one that kept it all together. And we did have disagreements about jurors. But we had to make a group decision. We did not want extra strikes because, we didn't want the state to have extra strikes.
Right.
I kind of felt like I was on an island a little bit from some of the other attorneys because I was okay with Trump supporters, which people don't typically, conservative.
Right.
We don't want them on a criminal case. And I'm not trying to lump people together. That's just the way attorneys think.
Yep.
But I said, listen, we got another case in this courtroom that we kind of have a common enemy right now.
Right.
And so, we need to keep our, mind open to that.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
So that was interesting. How that played in, and that was a discussion, and there's always some disagreement, but we got a great jury at the end. So
yeah,
you had a great team of a dream team of sorts for all these different minds working on the defense, and how you guys came together and you huddled and you had the Harvey ruling effect. And maybe the Max Shardt ruling effect that people didn't know about, but there was a lot of, togetherness with this defense team. And something I've been in covered trials where some of the defense team didn't get along, and
there's a lot of accomplished attorneys in that room, but everyone got along, and it was always fun for me because I was sitting next to Nichols' team, and of course Bruce is there, and then I'm sitting behind Jeffrey, and Brian's there, and I felt, and I was kind of like, I'm younger than them, but I was kind of more experienced in maybe some of the younger attorneys that were on the case than me, so I was kind of like in the middle. And I would always, every day it would be like, Brian's on my left shoulder, Mr. Optimism. Oh, everything's great. We're doing great. And then on my right shoulder was Bruce the sky is falling.
Oh, doomsday.
Right. And it was just like two different people that I love dearly, but just such different feelings about what was going on. And it was great because it gave me both perspectives throughout this whole trial. And I took in everything that other people said. Mr. Harvey gave me so much advice. Miss Westmoreland was so supportive. And even then when they got off the case, people were calling me, checking on me. The Matthews, all of them. I don't even like to name names. Mark Gardner cheering me on, showing up to court at the end. So, it was just great support and a great team.
I want to know, because it seems to be different in Georgia. And since we spoke to the alternates, and we're very glad they were not on the deliberating jury, how are alternates decided? And how is it so that, we need to know how that happened.
We knew they don't tell the jurors because if you're an alternate, you might not pay attention.
Right.
Like, wow, I'm just here for no reason. And then all of a sudden people leave and now you're on it and you haven't been paying attention. So we don't tell the jurors, but it's really, you go down to numbers. That it's as simple as that. So
is it the last people selected?
Right. Would be the alternates would have the highest juror number. So I think we went through 2,000 jurors for hardship, but I think we only got to like 500 when we picked the jury. So we did all these other jurors for really no reason. But I think the alternates would be the 5 with the highest numbers. And then I think, what did we lose? 2 jurors. So 2 alternates became jurors. Yeah.
Okay.
And so we were also very cognizant. I'm not going to go into specific people, but we were very cognizant of
who was with you,
and who was next in line to become a quote unquote real juror, and so we were cognizant of that.
Okay. Did you during the course of the trial, did you feel like, because sometimes you get a feeling that you have a juror, they're with you, maybe they nod or they make a facial expression did you ever, or were they stone-faced poker players?
So I joked with the four person
56
about this in the back, 56. He just had a radiance about him that anytime I got in front of the jury, I always try to make eye contact with everyone. And even in my clothes, if you look, I didn't say anything for like a minute, and I just looked at everyone in the face to make sure I made eye contact to say I'm here. But when I was, whether it was cross-examination or arguing in front of the jury, every time I looked, I'd always fixate on 56 for some reason. And I didn't know he was going to be the 4. I had a feeling he would be, but I didn't know that for a fact. But it was just something, he was always smiling, so it was a little bit awkward. So he was kind of like my barometer about how things were going off. And I just remember when they played the drinks, the Shamal drinks homicide, they played the video without me giving my rendition of the video. And it just shows 3 cars pulled up and then no more movement. And, all these people that had been on my side, I felt that had been giving me positive indicators, all of a sudden were looking like, what? Like, explain this, Max, what? And then I knew I had to get up there with an aggressive cross-examination right at that moment. I need to get those people back because I felt I lost them. And there was a couple moments like that. Investigator Viverito, when she brought in, they threw everything at Shannon at the end. And I said, okay, I got to come strong to bring them back. So, yeah.
Now, go ahead, Ike. I kind of mute you because I get background noise.
I'm in the office. We have a deposition going on. It's still law work going on around the world. I know the YSL is over.
Can I say one thing before we move on? Because I think it needs to be said. I just referred to something as the drinks homicide, and I don't like to do that. It's an easy way to identify it. I will say this. The Drinks family showed up to court every day towards the end when they were dealing with that case. And, I would see them in the hallway and I would make eye contact with them and give them a nod. And they were, I've been in cases where people have displayed real animosity towards the defense attorney. I can't imagine what they're going through. I can't imagine what any of the victims' families are going through. And I know how difficult that is. But, I know it probably doesn't mean anything, but that family was unbelievably gracious when they were in court. And, I think that needs to be said. And none of this minimizes the loss of life and really the senseless loss of life.
And I saw that as well. And I know it was difficult for the families just to sit there. Let me ask you a question. When I hate to use this term, but the guy with the half a head, when he came in to testify,
yes,
excuse me,
Mr. Montgomery, Dexter Montgomery.
Dexter Montgomery. When he came in to testify, were you guys concerned that would really affect the jury? Especially for your client.
I mean, it was horrible. I mean, it's horrible what happened, and I know that I laid out an argument for the jury. I didn't say it, but I laid out an argument that perhaps the people in Mr. Montgomery's car were following Mr. Bentley, OG Bentley, and Rodney Allison, because they thought they had money. And I don't know, that's the way it looked to me. I'm not saying Mr. Montgomery had anything to do with that, right, but that's the way it looked to me. But ultimately, my client had nothing to do with that. And so that was the actions, the senseless actions of two people that weren't on trial with us.
Exactly.
And so that's kind of the way, I mean, you're never going to make that right, what happened. So we were just trying to give an explanation of why it happened and make it clear that the reason why it happened had nothing to do with anyone on trial. And it was a split-second decision, a horrible decision, a selfish decision, a crazy decision by people that were high and thought that someone was trying to rob them.
Right.
And to me, that's not RICO activity. And I think the jury agreed.
And the jurors, as I listened to some of the jurors, and especially one, we'll talk about the one on our part 2 of this interview, because Max has another interview to do. So I'm kind of going to break this up, but the jurors, and I just had to lost my train of thought. Go ahead, Ike. It was something I wanted to say about the jurors. You're muted.
You're muted.
Unmute yourself.
Sorry, I'm trying to save you from the background. My question has to do with Woody. I believe at one point there may have been an argument that Brian still was making that perhaps it was Woody who was responsible for one of the murders. Did you find that problematic, given what you knew would be the instructions to the jury that they could determine that Woody was an unindicted co-conspirator and a member of YSL? And if they believed that they could, in fact, find the other defendants guilty as a result of that?
Well, Brian and myself had different concerns going into this trial because he was focused on the RICO. Honestly, if I'm being honest, I knew generally what I wanted to say about the RICO to try to shield it, but I viewed the argument of it's individuals doing individual stuff as my contribution to the team when I was doing those crosses. Mm-hmm. But really, I wasn't focused on the RICO because I had 2 murders to worry about.
Right.
And if I don't win those 2 murders, if we don't win those 2 murders, then what the RICO doesn't matter.
Right.
So, you know, that was more Brian's focus, but ultimately I wasn't too worried about that because yes, you could argue that Woody was around us. Sure. But know what else happened at trial? The state made a deal with Woody. The investigators made a deal with Woody. So as far as I was concerned, that was their friend, not ours.
Right.
And you know, and when I say that also, I don't want to create the impression that I'm here bashing Mr. Copeland either, because, you know, really, you know, the same way I hope Shannon goes on. Mr. Copeland's got daughters. He testified to them. I could tell when he was on the stand how genuine, you know, aside all the other stuff, which was a show at times, one thing that I don't think anyone can doubt is how genuine his love for his daughters is. And, you know, I hope he goes on to do great things. I mean, I'm not caught up on blaming Woody for anything at this point.
You know, and to your point, I saw an interview that Doug did on TikTok, and Woody was on the interview as well. Doug had a certain strategy going into to cross-examine him, but once he started listening to what Woody had to say, he said he fell back. He said it was just, at this point he could just put it in cruise control. Did you feel that way when you cross-examined him? Like,
you know, you remember my cross-examination of Woody? I didn't take it easy on him at all.
No,
I went at him.
What he said, you got beef.
Rightfully so.
Right, and I went at him, and I probably went harder at him than maybe any witness I've ever gone after. But I have it on good authority that Woody understands the job that I was doing.
He did. He said that.
And so, you know, I just hope the best for him. And, you know, and the other thing that Woody, I think, really did a favor, you know, Woody had a front row seat to the way that this case was built, because it was built through him. And I, you know, Woody, now he was a strange vessel to carry this message. It was a unique situation, but he really brought home the point that we were trying to make, which is, you know, I think I called it a sick game, when you get people that are willing to lie, and then you press them for information and give them every reason to lie, and start talking about they ain't going to get out till they're 49 years old and they're never going to see their daughters. And then, yeah, you're going to get people saying stuff. Right. But that doesn't mean it's the truth. And Woody, to his credit, was very open about what was said to him and the way he took it and the way he played it.
Yeah.
I was a little confused as to why the DOJ report didn't kind of come in at some point towards the end of the trial, because as you remember, the report came out probably maybe a week and a half before the conclusion.
That wasn't going to be admissible, though. Okay. I mean, you remember, Dennis. You remember when I tried to walk out there with the blue jumpsuit, and the judge said, "No, Max, you're not doing that." And I was going to put it on.
I didn't see that.
and I had it in the back of the courtroom the whole time, just waiting to do. But I think the point was made by Woody and by Lil D from Cleveland, Mr. Zachary,
right,
and by others like Rice Street,
and the young lady that came.
Motivation to lie.
Yeah.
It's
a lot, ladies and gentlemen. I got to be respectful of Mr. Shart's time. We're going to do a part 2, but he kind of made some room for me today. You know, I cut the line, so to speak. So,
so can we just, before you go, can you just say something to the people? Because I know there might be another trial, and my thing has always been to encourage people to serve jury duty. And if this trial didn't emphasize the importance of serving jury duty, how important is it, Max? How important? Because we saw that those alternates said they would have voted to convict.
Right. You can't say the system's broken and then take yourself out of the system.
Right.
Say that again.
Right.
Yes.
And so, and then also if you get up there and start, the other way people take themselves out of the system is, getting up there during jury selection and giving a big speech, how, oh, I've been through this, and based on my experience, I would never convict anyone, yada, yada, yada. And then you're taking yourself out the system that way too. And I'm not saying that if that's really the truth, then, you got to be honest. But if that's not the truth and you just want to get on your stump, well, congratulations, you gave a speech. You're never going to serve on a jury. So, you just got to go in there with an open mind. And these jurors, think about it. They all heard how long was it, Judge Glanville reading the indictment? 4 hours? Yes. 4 hours of gun after gun after gun after gun after crime after crime. I mean, imagine leaving that. You got to be strong to have an open mind, but these jurors obviously had an open mind. And, I just give, them so many props for doing their job.
Well, we give you the props because we know that you got them there, because jurors don't get to where they need to be unless they have the proper motivation and guidance. So give yourself that credit as well.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, can we put a clap? Let's put some green hearts in there. What the heck?
Right.
Green hearts in the chat.
Clap it up for Max.
Clap it up for Max. I want everybody green hearts. Let's go, ladies and gentlemen. I wish, boy, listen, I got salivated. Put the hearts in the chat, and we're gonna do a part 2 of this because I have about.
I'll be here for a part 2. Dennis, you just let me know. I'll do it part 2.
Yes, thank you.
Pleasure meeting.
We'll be back, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you, Max. I know you have another interview.
Stay warm in New York.
Absolutely.
And out of the line of fire, because they shooting out here.
That's right.
Thank you, Max.
Y'all take care.
I'll see you in a minute. I'll see you back in a minute. That was a great
interview.
Great interview. It was so many questions I had. I didn't want to take up his time because I don't want the competition to be saying he's hating on me. Yeah, I did. I kind of jumped the line on you too.
I think we asked some unique. I mean, I try to ask questions that other people aren't going to ask from, from a different perspective, and hopefully, hopefully we've uncovered some things that he's not spoke about in other interviews or will speak about in other interviews. But that was good. That was very good. Very good.
I think we will probably resume this about 4:00. Let me just check my message, but I think we'll bring it back about 4:00.
Get the likes up before you go, before you log.
Hold on, guys. I'm gonna put this in the membership. The next part in the membership section. If you guys are not supporting this platform,
no, he will. Won't he do it? Won't he do
it? So listen, if you want me to keep this one not privatized, make sure you put the likes on both our platforms. Make sure you follow me. And if you're watching on Twitter, listen, I meant to say this the other day. If you're watching on Twitter, subscribe to my page. Like the page. Don't just, come in here and just peeping around the corner, be in the bushes. Show me some love here. Because, once I activate the subscribe section on Twitter, then you're going to say, oh, well, he's being selfish. No, I'm not going to do that. But you got to support the platform. Do that, and I have another interview. I have another one coming up. Oh, I'm going to have a conflict. But we'll figure it out.
I got work to do.
I know.
I got work to do. I got a job, baby.
Yeah, work to do. She's taking care of business. Woman, can't you see? I know the bird. Ladies and gentlemen, please give Ike also some hearts as well.
Thank you, fam.
I appreciate Ike. I really do. You always come through in the clutch.
Thank you.
And I appreciate you. And I'll call you for the next part.
All right. Sounds good.
Hey.
All right, y'all. Be good, fam. Peace.
All right, guys. So I hope you guys like I'm sure you liked it. I'm reading the comments, but I had to go ahead and shout out some people real quick. Now, I kind of posted it there, but I'm going to shout out some people real quick. Just give me a second here. Shout out to all the members first and foremost, but I want to shout out Ashley Linnell. Let me post Ashley up here. Ashley says, Max, how is the DA still receiving pleas on RICO when a jury has come back not guilty. Okay, that's the question we're going to have to ask. So you got to come back for the part 2. Where is the enterprise organization? I mean, apparently it's none based on the juror's verdict. What was your strategy for Woody? Okay, these are the questions that we need to ask. Okay, hold on. Okay, he sure did cook. He cooked. He's a chef. I thought it was interesting. Thank you. I appreciate you, Gabriel Marville. I appreciate you. And listen, you want the autograph? I shot the picture. So let's see if we can negotiate some some photos. Anyway, we'll talk about that in a minute. Who else we got here? Let's see here. Thank you. You did an amazing job, Max. And don't underestimate the light you bring. He brings a lot of light, as well as the other attorneys brought. They pulled the layers back on what is happening in Fulton County. The passion you show while defending Shannon warmed many hearts. It sure did, and that the embrace at the end, as well as Doug Weinstein. What Doug did for his client is nothing but the best. And just think, Mr. Weinstein, this was his first criminal case. He wins a murder case in his first criminal case. That's amazing. So I take my hats off to these guys. These guys, did the incredible. And I mean, you guys saw what they were up against. Let me see if I get that down here. Okay, all right. Okay, no, we didn't. Listen. When I see the questions, I'm not going to, we're not going to talk about Kayla's situation. Not yet. Hopefully, we'll have Kayla here. She can talk about it herself. So I'll leave that up to Kayla. She wants to talk about it. We bring her up and let her talk about it. But as far as me talking about it, no, I'm gonna respect Kayla and her, what she got going on over there. I did give Kayla I gave her a little hell in the beginning, but yeah, we got to protect Kayla Bumpus. We got to Kayla Bumpus Jackson. We got to protect her. And I'll just because some people are salty now. The outcome of this case is not making certain people happy with the outcome. I mean. It is what it is, but at the end of the day, there are people still salty, and sometimes people like that get back. You know what I'm talking about? They want that get back. Bob, where you listen, Bob? I was looking for you. Where were you at? He's not let out of jail. He has some other issues that he has to deal with that should be worked out relatively quick, but still, he has to deal with that. And as you guys know, that Ms. Jackson has joined his defense team and assisting in the brokering of that the conclusion of those other issues. So just stand by. Hopefully, I get an invite to the wedding. I don't know. We'll see. Maybe maybe the you have the virtual wedding, then you have the actual wedding. I'm sure they're gonna do something nice and big. And we'll see. It's a love story of sorts. Let's see here. A lot of questions here. Let me see what I got going on here. Okay, what did I miss? Okay, let's see what stands out. There are a lot of comments coming in, ladies and gentlemen. If you're watching on X, I see a lot of you watching on hold on. I see a lot of you watching on YouTube. It's YouTube as well. Let's see what questions stand out. Yeah, I hope that, and here's the concern for me, that both these exonerated, almost exonerated individuals are still sitting in jail. The risk level of people in jail who are proven to be not guilty is higher because you got people that hate. Just think about that. You had to go back to the jail knowing that you essentially won an acquittal in your case. In the case of Yagati, just within 24 hours before the verdict came back, he was attacked. He had stitches in his, he had staples in his head. You can see that. He shouldn't. The prosecution should have said right there, we're gonna give him a signature bond. I mean, we held him in for 2 years. He was found not guilty. He should be released. He should be released. Because if he was actually guilty, then they would have a reason to hold him. But he's not guilty. He was denied bond. He had to fight the case from inside. At that point, the man has his life is in jeopardy because he's already been attacked. So why would you bring he should have got a consent bond right there. And some of the things that he's doing with happened while he was in jail. But you have a quote unquote, not quote unquote, you have an innocent man that was arrested and charged and indicted that ultimately was acquitted. At that point, he's being kidnapped at this point. Well, it may be a little extreme, but you guys get what I'm saying. You got people in there that may never see the light of day. And, there's envy and jealousy and so forth. Get that man, hopefully he's in protective custody. Because at that point, he don't need to be in general population. He doesn't need to be in general. Neither one of them need to be in general population. They need to be well protected, because at the end of the day, these guys were acquitted of the most serious charges. And that's my position. You guys may say, no. Let's look at the bigger picture. They were in a torturous situation, being in Rice Street initially, and now you tell him, well, he's acquitted, but he had to go back to jail, deal with something else that happened while he was in jail, trying to fight a case. It don't make any sense. It makes no sense. It makes no sense. Yeah, I don't know if he's in general population, but he shouldn't be and anyone that runs security for the jail should know he should not be in general pop at all. I mean, at all. He's not state property. He's not Fulton property. He needs to get back home to Miss Tasha. Get back home to his mother and his girlfriend and his fiance. And I had an opportunity to talk to her as well. Very sweet young lady. We had a conversation, and hopefully it was off the record, so I can't say too much about it, but let's just say she's from my hometown. That's all I can say. She's from my hometown. So hopefully everything will end up working out for both of them completely. Shannon should be good. He has a smart, say what you want about Kayla, but she's a smart woman. Very smart, very strategic. And it's not easy going to get a GAD, a Juris Doctorate degree. So when you guys try to make fun of her, how many of you have a degree hanging on your wall? I'll just say that because a lot of times people that make comments about her, they come from a place of I don't know. But anyway, with that said, ladies and gentlemen, I appreciate you being here. I'll see you guys I will do an alert, a tweet to let you guys know that we're going to do part 2. With that, we're going to end this the way it started. You guys have been wonderful. I appreciate the support, and we'll see you guys on the next live. I'm out.